all of you have great memories of places in Millbrook that are really important to you, and you want to share them with everyone that's here. Some things, one thing I hope that you saw on our flyer that we sent out, that we did change our name officially. We're now Millbrook Historical Society. And then there's another, Grace Church has a program, another announcement that needlework, the history of needlework in the village. I don't know whether anybody knows, but two houses down from Grace, there used to be a needlework guild there, and they brought a woman from, Robin, you want to talk about it?
No.
She's part of the
probably
program,
know more
so
about than I do.
I just realized
Well,
that.
she came from England. And,
She came from England. Who brought her here? I just don't remember.
Erica Wilson was
Mrs.
her name.
Marshall brought her.
Yes. And Barbara Lindsay's going to talk about actually the work on how it's done, and then we have some memories also talking about the different people who the hangings are in memory of, and it won't be terribly long, but and we'll have some.
That's at noon on Sunday.
Yep.
In the parish hall.
No, in the church.
In the church, I'm sorry.
It's in the church.
Okay, in the church. And we always are looking to make sure everybody has paid their membership dues, if it's on your envelope, and to make sure. And also, if you want to contribute to the high school award, the Lori Duncan Award, we're always looking for donations for that. We have a whole list of committees that the board are all members of, but if any of you want to be part of, work on these committees with us, we're more than happy to have you sign up and be part of it. And the other thing, the archives is looking for volunteers to come in either on Monday morning or Tuesday morning, or if there's some other time you're available, to help just put things in their places where they need to go, and try to organize them. And also we're trying to work on all John's photos right now. He has all his slides that we are working to digitize, and then we will be putting them in folders and saving the special ones so that we can have lots of future programs on those as the time comes up. And John is kind of going through them now and putting them in carousels, and Mike Spross is then digitizing them, and then we're going to look through those digitized images and put them on in folders by categories. And then the other thing is we have all the previous programs. Jim puts all these videos, all these programs, but the ones from long ago are all on audio tapes. We've now got a machine that will transcribe the audio tapes onto an MP3 player. And so anybody that is familiar with that kind of technology or would like to learn about it, they also can volunteer and do that. Okay, anything else? Any other announcements anybody has? Anything I forgot? All right, I'm going to turn it over to Robert, and Robert is going to kind of MC our program tonight of our memories of Millbrook and places in Millbrook.
Hi everybody, thanks for coming. So we're going with a little bit of a different format tonight. Instead of one presenter focusing on a particular topic, we're going to try to hear from a lot of people, in particular about a particular place in Millbrook that's been important in your life. Some place that you have a specific memory of, whether it's from childhood or from adulthood. And we've got a few people here, 4 or 5 people who I know want to talk. So we'll start with them, and then if other people want to jump in and participate, if the spirit moves you, feel free to come up and join in. I'll just ask that all the people who are talking, if they could stand roughly in this area, or if you want, you could sit down up here, but it just makes it a lot easier for Jim taping what you have to say. All right? So we're going to start with Linda. She's all set up here with some images. So turn it over.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Linda Cole. Just a minute, hold on that Jim. He's going to turn the lights off for me when we start. I moved here in 2010 from an apartment building in Brooklyn where I lived for 43 years, 25 apartments, and a tree outside that had a few birds in it. And that was my wildlife. So when I moved here, I chose a place next to the mill pond because I loved the fact that I had birds and more animals than I really expected to see. And so I have taken some pictures, and my next door neighbor has taken some pictures of the mill pond, and so I hope you can see it. Jim, can you get that one off too?
Oh, wait a minute, let me figure out, you want the other one off too?
That one probably.
I can't.
Maybe it doesn't go off. But in any case,
That one off.
I call it the mill pond. What do you
There you
call
go,
it?
you got it.
Do you call it the mill
Where
pond?
is it? Where is it?
Where is it?
Where is it?
Ah, okay. That question will be answered very shortly. This picture I took using my digital camera. It's not a very good camera, but you'll see some of the pictures I've taken, sort of good. This is the mill pond, which is where the waterfall is. The waterfall on Stanford Road. The waterfall on Stanford Road. So that's on the right.
Most Millbrook people would know it as the milk pond.
The milk
The
pond.
mill pond.
The milk pond because they used to keep the milk there.
Oh,
Milk.
It was a milk pond.
Milk pond.
Milk factory
so
pond.
far I'm drawing a blank.
Oh, okay.
I
Do you
used to
know it
live
as
in
the
Millbrook.
milk pond?
I never saw
There
that.
was a receiving station there.
Is that Dietrich? It's not Dietrich.
That's,
No.
that's the Wappinger Creek. And you're looking at the mill house, which is up to the right. It's a little yellow and white house on Deneen Road.
They found.
Does everyone know where Deneen Road is? Okay, so we have about half of you that know. So my house is a greenhouse on Deneen Road. That's called the mill pond house, the mill house. But there are how many mill houses left on Wappingers now?
4.
The blue house up on 44, right? The yellow house, which is right on Deneen, and then the stone house, which is called what? What is the stone house called? The stone mill house?
Dime.
Right,
Yeah.
Malalas, okay. And that, we had a discussion about that just
You
recently.
got one down Shady Dell Road.
Where's that? Shady Dell
As
Road?
you're going out of Millbrook.
And that's on the Wappingers?
That's on the Wapshire
Is
Street.
it
There's
really?
a
Okay.
dam there, and it used to be a mill there.
Wow. How nice. I should go there. Okay. So this was taken in my first year here, and you can probably see that the milk pond is right here. And it's looking west, so it was taken about 4 o'clock in the afternoon. When the sun is going down, you can see the sun through the trees there.
Trees.
But I love it just after it snows. It's just beautiful after it snows. That's on the south side of the bridge that crosses on Stanford Road. And this is a private land that is owned across the bridge. After you get out of the village of Millbrook, you hit the town of Washington. And a lot of UPS trucks and other truckers have lunch there and drive in and sit there. But if you walk down, yeah. And if you walk down there, I did last June, and there was a Jack of the Pulpit. Do you see the Jack of the Pulpit there?
Right.
Yeah. But I didn't realize it when I took the photo that someone else got into the photo. Yeah, my dog. Luna got it, and I didn't even realize that until I did the PowerPoint today. But I love Jack and pulpits.
There's your dog.
That's not my dog. So this is the
It's a little
resident of the
unfriendly.
Mill Pond, probably two years ago. And everyone know what it is?
Either a
Woodchuck.
muskrat or a rat or a beaver.
I think it's a beaver, yeah. And it was probably taken about 100 feet away. He was across the mill pond. And you could see the person who took it is Beatrice Moritz. And she lives in the yellow house that you saw a picture of at the end. Beatrice has been very busy during the last election period because she takes photographs in Washington, D.C. and also in New York of President Obama and Hillary Clinton and others. But she has really discovered how wonderful the wildlife is here in Millbrook. And so she takes pictures like this. And like this. Yeah, we thought first that the beaver was a male beaver, and a single beaver is called a bachelor beaver. And but this bachelor beaver found a friend. So there's two of them, yeah. And this is a bird that we see a lot of. We don't know if it's the same bird. And in fact, there is a large one, and then there's a smaller one, maybe male, female. I can't sex them. I don't know which gender is which, but that is a fairly large bird. And when it flies, it has a 6-foot wingspan.
What is that? Heron or
You get a lot of fish out of them.
It's a blue heron. Yeah. Yeah, isn't that great?
We have one too.
Oh.
Yeah. And I don't know if you can see because the lights are interfering, but there's a baby on the left. And I don't know if moms and dads both feed a baby bird, but there's a bird feeding a smaller bird. It's really cute.
Oh, she's a whole photographer.
Yeah. Isn't she wonderful? Yeah. This one is really hard to figure out. Because it's snow up there on the top, and then she has cut it off so that the reflection of the pond is down at the bottom. So the ducks are not doing anything that they should be in a circus for, but they appear to be sitting on top of their own legs there. Amazing. Yeah. And you could tell me what this is, yeah?
Bird.
A
Cardinal.
bird, good.
Cardinal.
Yeah, right, a female cardinal, good. It's so hard to see them usually because they blend in so beautifully. This is a new resident. 2 weeks ago, we discovered this. What do you think it is?
That's a mink.
That was our first impression, a mink. Yeah. And it's about this long. It's not very big. And it sits on the ice and then dives in after the fish, and it catches fish that are big. It's amazing. But it's a singleton, and he has a nest underneath the north side of the pond.
When I was younger, had a track run all through Thorndale. And I used to catch the mink, quite a few mink. At that time, they were paying us $30.
Huge. $30 for each pelt?
40 years ago.
Wow, wow. That's a lot of money. This is just another picture. After it snows, I get out as soon as I can, and I just love the snow on the leaves and on the branches. This is over the Wappingers. And this is on the Mill Pond. Beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next up we have Joe.
Linda, you gotta show me that mill pond.
Okay.
It's still there, it's
When you
still
go
not-
down by the Catholic Church and go over the
Milk.
bridge,
Your
it's
heart's
there.
good.
When you
Charlie,
go down
yeah,
by
just before you
St.
get-
Joseph's Church around to Stanford Road and over the bridge,
Yeah, I know.
that's the creek.
Yeah.
And the pond and the dam.
Very close it, then you can.
I'm from South Millbrook.
Yeah, yeah.
My name is Joe Spagnola, Jr. Diane had called me and asked me if I would speak. First, I believe it was about my childhood, but I see we're getting geographical here now, and we want to speak about a particular place, which I had envisioned doing at Elm Drive, where I grew up, close to where we are now. My mom was a Bennett College student, and she had been moved around several times. I think she said 6 cities in 7 years because of a divorce in her family. And when she got to Millbrook, she decided that she was staying. And at her graduation, neither her father, who was very ill, or her mother could make it. So she graduated, went to Miss Viscogliasi's house, rented a room on Front Street. Left the home after leaving her bag there, went to the diner and got a job. And in the back was my father, who was a short order cook. 5 kids later, and I mean abruptly, they came. I believe on Elm Drive, we basically made the mandatory minimum. The Hurleys behind us had 8. The Murphys had 8. The Greens down the path had 9. They should have been investigated. Things were going on here that weren't normal. But the Whitefield became sort of the center of the village because the school was still operating here. And this was the football field. And it was strewn and surrounded by beautiful, and as I remember them, they were 300-foot high elm trees. They weren't, of course, but they were gorgeous, gorgeous trees. And one year, a spray truck showed up. And my brother and I saw them setting up, and they were spraying as far as 100 feet high. They had obviously had the Dutch elm disease, and they were spraying the trees. We didn't know that. We thought it was water. So we convinced all the kids in the neighborhood to get their bathing suits on. And let's go run underneath it. Well, we did it for at least a year. But anyway, so the elm trees eventually went away. But the football field was still there before they built the new school, which you can see here in the corner. The old school was a beautiful old building, a old brick building, and I don't know what they used it for exactly because they had the school here. I think it was probably a middle school at the time. That was torn down, parking lot made, and the new school created. I believe I'm about 10 here, so this would have been 1963 or 62 when they probably first built the school because they were going to, this one was done. I believe this closed in 1962, I believe.
62.
I believe, yeah. So Elm Drive became sort of the hub. At Elm Drive, the football field was still the Millbrook High School field before the high school was built, and everything occurred there. There were bonfires. there were parades, there were all kinds of events. In the fall, the neighbors, whether they liked each other or not, would all rake their leaves down into the road. And one Saturday, they would all burn their leaves. And I can still smell it. I thought, well, it was a beautiful smell. Maybe I think that because I was running under DDT for a year, but it was a wonderful area. And as the school left, the new school came in, the younger kids came in, basketball courts went up, and events, local events started happening on Elm Drive. We had a bird's eye view. My parents left Elm Drive in 1971, and I repurchased the house 18 years ago and raised my kids there. And it's a great place. It's a wonderful place to ride around. It has become a walking center and a fecal center for the dogs, but most people do stop and take care of it. Take a ride around, especially in the fall. It's very nice to walk around. I'm sure most of you have been there. But that's my memory of Elm Drive.
And all the baseball games that used to take place there in the
Well, the baseball games were, there used to be a backstop. I can't remember how high it was. It must have been 40 feet high, at least. And some semi-professional teams played there. And I remember you gave me a picture. I believe that's Buck Gross in one of them,
Right.
in the picture.
Millbrook Millionaires.
Millbrook Millionaires, yeah, and there were several different teams that played there. Now, that was before my time. But, and the backstop came down when the school came in. Progress. Anyway, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Very nice.
All right, Mary, do you want to go next?
I wanted to stand behind something, and I can't. Anyhow, I'm Marion, and when Allison called me to see what was my favorite building, I don't know why I said the blacksmith shop, because this is the Federated Church, and I've been a member here for about 70 years. This should be one of my favorites. And the other should be the Thorne Building, where I graduated in 1943. But I chose the blacksmith shop. And I don't know, I don't know if you know where it was. It's about 2 buildings south of the monument. I don't know. I don't know who lives there now. And a friend of mine and I were home with the young children, and she said they need a waitress there. So why don't we take the job? She would work one week and we'd take care of each other's kids and work the other week, and then our husbands were home so we could work weekends and nights. And the blacksmith shop, I just think of it all the time. Way back when I came here in the early 40s, it was owned by Mr. and Mrs. Hazard. And I asked John about them, but I don't know where they lived. I thought they lived up around Harts Village, but I knew the cook, Margaret Finger. I went to school with her children. And then I became a waitress there with my friend. But I had the best food. They had things that you don't have in restaurants now. Frog's legs. How many restaurants serve frog's legs? The help there only got to eat usually a chopped steak, which was delicious, or half a broiler. But once in a while, if there were some frog's legs left over, we got a taste. And they also had a lobster pie, which was in an oval dish, and they used loads of butter and cream in all the food. And it had the best crust on it, the lobster pie. And another thing they had at lunchtime was waffles. How many restaurants have waffles? And cream chicken and the best bacon. So, and it was, I guess, it was a very, very busy restaurant because Bennett College was in existence and a lot of parents were coming there. But people from all over, not only Millbrook ate there, but from out of state, especially in the fall when the leaves were changing.
Leaf peepers.
And what?
Leaf peepers.
Leaf peepers, yeah, yeah. We'd have loads of people. And in the beginning, the Hazards owned it, and then a young couple, graduates of Cornell, Don and Jane Blackburn, bought it, and that's who I worked for. And worked there a few years, and the furniture was really nice. It was old American, early American, lots of pine tables and pine chairs. And they eventually sold it and bought Altamont, Miss Lamont's house. And that was Altamont Inn. That was beautiful too.
That's on 343.
Yeah, way up the hill,
The
we
big
go up there.
expanse.
And we had wedgewood china and upholstered chairs and little pewter salt and pepper shakers and salt dishes. So I loved it. And I worked there for a few late 50s, early 60s. So it was fun.
How many people or tables did you have at the blacksmith shop? Do you
Not
remember?
many, it was quite small, but we were busy. There were enough work for like 2 or 3 waitresses, and there was a cook and a salad girl and a dishwasher. It was fun to see when you go in a restaurant, to see the cooking part of it too, as well as, you know, the waitressing and the eating part of it. So that's.
Why was it called the blacksmith
Well,
shop?
that's what I was trying to find out, and I looked in Carmine DiArpino's, I think they said the blacksmith shop was across the road from it,
That's right, you're right.
but I don't know why it was called the
I think the
blacksmith.
blacksmith shop was over on County House Road.
Yeah,
Yeah, right over there.
so I don't know.
There was a blacksmith shop at the end of the park, of course, by the, it's a real estate office now. It was the blacksmith shop there.
That was a different blacksmith.
Yes.
That's a different,
yes.
we're talking about where
Oh,
this
yeah.
is.
Oh, I
You're
see.
talking about right in the
South.
village.
Yeah.
South of the monument.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
It was the brick, it's the brick building, right? As you go
I
from
think
the
it was brick,
monument.
yeah.
Yeah.
When it's on the right-hand side?
I meant to drive down there yesterday, because I haven't been down there in so long, and see what it looks like. I guess it's a private home now.
Yeah, I think that's the one it used to be.
Marion, did you recall that this building where the VFW is now, this stone building, was where they taught, you went to the high school here, so you must remember they taught metalworking and blacksmithing and all.
Not then, maybe back in my
But
mother's
that was
day.
before
My
your
mother
time.
went to high
Oh,
school
okay.
there too.
Okay, so it's
Not
probably
in
during
the
your
40s.
mom's way. Yeah.
No, it was where the VFW is, wasn't it, I heard you talk about it at the meetings here, wasn't it a
The gas company.
gas company? It was a gas company.
This building right
Yeah.
on, right Yes, next door.
Yeah, it was a gas company.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
but that's where they taught.
Okay, my 3 minutes is up.
Before we get to the next person, does anyone else have any specific memories of restaurants that you used to eat in when you were a kid, if you lived here,
Somebody mentioned the other day Danielle's restaurant on Franklin Avenue. That was a famous, well-known.
or that was popular?
Well, I might comment on the Grape Shade.
Sure.
Yeah, the Grape Shade restaurant, which was on Alden Place.
I was forbidden to go there.
It was what?
I was forbidden to go there.
You weren't qualified to go there, there were gentlemen there.
Thank you.
Let me say this about the Grape Shade. It was owned by Nazarene Manzi, and he had 3 sons. He had 3 sons that didn't work with him all the time, but they worked with him part-time. You know, the word class is hard to define. Those 3 guys had it, believe me. The Grape Shade was a place where stable hands, people, you know, grooms and so forth would gather at the end of the day and have a beer. Sally O'Brien would come in and judge the weight of a pumpkin and so forth. And back of the bar was a picture of Bally McShane. a picture about 3 feet square, Bally McShane. And anybody knows Bally McShane, then they know something. If you don't know about Bally McShane, you know nothing. Believe me.
Never heard
Bally McShane was not a guy, it was a horse. And it was owned by the Barnacue family, and it came out of a, well, you shouldn't have got me started.
You started yourself.
Okay, I'm self-starting. Came from a lumber camp up in Canada. And he saw that horse jump over a log or something like that and decided, and it won the King George's Cup in the early days in England. And Bally McShane was a very, and he, I remember asking one of his grooms to show me a horseshoe. That horseshoe looked like a pizza platter, believe me, it was huge. Well, anyway, that was the grape shade. And the reason why I call it a grape shade, most grapes are grown on trellises. This was grown overhead. And so you had a shaded area. But we had a meeting down at the Cottonwood one time, and Mrs. Graham, I don't know, she was very casual about the way she operated the place. After the meeting, there were about 15 of us. We went over to the kitchen, to the restroom part of it, to get some dinner, and the kitchen was closed. So Johnny Miller, who had an Agway operation over here, at GLF at the time, he said, let's call the grape shade. Well, in 20 minutes we had a full course dinner up there, Italian style, you know, and it was great. I'll tell you, that was one heck of a place. That place had class with a capital C.
Thank you, Frank. And that's the place where the restaurant just opened, right?
Oh, yes, yeah.
Which is really nice.
Oh, yeah, well, it was homey. Put it that way.
Mr. Otta, you want to go next, or?
Sure. I guess I'm a little bit of a newcomer to this meeting, and thank you for inviting me. Mr. Kading, I grew up with Mr. Kading and Mr. Genova and a lot of other faces here. So I'm a Madisville boy, born and raised in Madisville. Went to the Little Red Schoolhouse for my first 3 years in school. I eaten at the blacksmith shop as a little boy and Altamont. My favorite memory of Madisville, I have thousands of them, believe it or not, but my best memory is of the town park. I don't have any pictures of that, but I did bring just a few of where I used to live. And I lived above my father's business. Family moved here in the 30s, and that's the old Doherty garage on Route 44. That was taken in the 20s before my dad had the place. You can see, I think 44 was still a dirt road then. Talk about farriers. Mr. Gallai lived next door and had his little farrier shop in the back. This is a picture of it in the 50s. That was my bedroom right there. And that was John W. Haynes' Cadillac. That one there. Sure, absolutely, sure. Yeah. And then this is a picture in 1957. My dad acquired the Chevrolet franchise after trying for 15 years or so in 1955. And we actually, we sold cars downstairs, fixed cars downstairs, and brought food up and down the stairs, and those good memories of that. And then this is a little picture of the new showroom, which is the current Ruby Chevrolet now, 1958, with my mom and dad sitting in a 58 convertible. So, Madisville was a really cool place. It was, right next door was the Madisville, is it now the Madisville Marketplace? It's the Stagecoach Deli, they called it, which it dates back to Stagecoach days. It was that little deli building was always a haberdashery place where they sold everything. sold everything from food, groceries. We had a butcher shop in there from Mr. Pettit in the back years ago. He used to butcher all the beef in the back, and everybody walked back then, so that's where I would get my milk and bread, and bring it home to my parents. And next door was the Mattisville Hotel, which is a used car lot now. And that building was right on the edge of the road. We used to vote there.
Yes, I remember,
We used to
yeah.
vote there.
Oh, okay.
But my best memory is the town park. And we used to call it Hydrix, because it was Mr. Hydrix pond, and the village bought it, or the town bought it from Mr. Hydrix, and he lived directly across the street. We used to trick or treat at his house all the time. He used to give us these big Hershey bars that we never saw when we were little kids. We wondered where he got them, but they were like supersized, so we couldn't wait to trick or treat at Mr. Hydrix's house. But when you lived in Mattisville and you went to the pool, you got a season pass, and you know, everybody knew you, so we didn't really walk through the front gate. You know, we had our own back entrance through the pine trees. And Mr. Sorensen, who used to own the Viking, and that was a famous restaurant on Route 44, then it was Palucci's, and Mr. Sorensen was the caretaker of the park back then, and one of the boys, Peter Sorensen, and I were about the same age, used to play together, and we used to help him out at the end of the season when they used to drain the pond, and Mr. Sorensen would get us together, Paul Galli, I think, myself, Lou Galli, and we'd stand there and he'd have a list of all the things that people lost in the water at the town park. So anything from diamond rings to little gold crosses, and you know, and so when the water was all drained, he'd let us in and we'd go searching for treasure. And believe it or not, we found tons of treasure. And if we found something that was never, you know, mentioned or written down anywhere, or you know, somebody didn't report it as missing, he would bring it to the town hall, and they would keep it for a while. And then if nobody claimed it, you got to keep it. So we found everything from little model cars to a diamond brooch once that nobody ever claimed, and then we took it down to Dee's jeweler to find out how much was it worth, and it was worth like $5 because it was make-believe. That's why nobody cared about it too much. But one of the unique things history-wise of the town park was it was popular. I mean, it was the place to be in the summertime. As kids, we couldn't wait to get, you know, wait till it opened so we could run in there and swim and play and meet all our friends. And sometimes it got a little embarrassing. They used to have a little loudspeaker system, you know, and they would say, "Audia, get your butt home." You're late for something, you know, they just blurt it right out. So they blurt that all out. And on Sundays, which was big picnic day, Saturdays and Sundays, the park opened at noon, and if you wanted to get a picnic table at the park, you had to get there around 10:30, quarter to 11, and wait by the gate until Mr. Sorensen opened the gate. And if you wanted a table, especially on a holiday weekend, the line was all the way back to the road of people, and then you'd run up, put something on the picnic table, you know, you'd put your basket there or something, and that would reserve your table. And a lot of times my family from Long Island and Tarrytown, New York, they would all come up and we'd have a big picnic at the pool, and the older guys would fall asleep under the trees, and all us kids would go down and attack the water and meet all our friends. And then we had winter at the town park. They used to drain it at the end of the year, then fill it back up again. And it used to freeze over, of course, when we were younger. It was a lot colder. And we had lights. And the Businessmen's Association, Mr. Kading was part of it. And a lot of organizations would, we'd have skating night, and we'd turn the lights on. My dad had an old Jeep, and if the ice was good enough, he'd plow the snow off the pool if it got snow on it, and us kids would help shovel a little bit. He only lost it once. It went through the ice. Luckily, it was by the little sandy beach, so we were able to get it out. But they used to play music over the loudspeaker, and you could skate, and the businessmen would light up nice bonfire, and we'd have hot chocolate and roast the marshmallows, and everybody had a great time. And you know, when it was over, you know, we all and the light switches, of course, we had to. The kids used to get on each other's shoulders because it was you know, to have electricity near water wasn't a good idea, so they were way up high. And so they'd send us out with flashlights, and the kids would get on each other's shoulders and climb up and turn the lights on, because each pole had its own little switch, you know. So the town park was packed every day of the week, with lots of kids swimming, and it was a great place to be, and they had the swim team, and I mean, town of Washington still has a swim team. And then we used to play pond hockey, and of course, I'm sure it was an insurance nightmare, but we played hockey there, whether the ice was safe or not. We all could swim pretty good. We figured we'd be okay. And that's my. Thank you. One more.
Skip, do you want to talk about your favorite spot?
I suppose so.
2 hours.
No, I wasn't with the village. My house is down near Burbank. I'm still in the town of Washington. But my big story, a relative of my grandmother's was Andrew Haight, who had the farm up here on Haight Road. That Mrs. Johnson just sold. I don't know who it was bought it, but Dad used to do his work up there, and I remember one of my big things was he'd gone back to the shop to get, or come down here to Millbrook, and he left me up there, and I happened to step on a nail, put a nail right through my foot, right? And when Dad they had me in the kitchen at the farmhouse, and Andrew told the help there that they went in the pantry and come out with a brand new can of turpentine.
Yeah.
Had a dishpan on the floor, and there was 4 help from the farm there. Says, you hold them down. And they had my shoe off, they put my foot down in that turpentine. Dad come back, they better take him down to Doc McKenzie and get a tetanus shot.
Good luck it didn't light it.
Huh? Went down to Dr. McKenzie and told him what it did. He doesn't need a tetanus shot, he already had that with the turpentine. But there was few things like that around that I've had to, and I'm a little unusual because I've got 80 years in the same house.
Wow.
And my grandfather had it built in 1912 for $635. When Dad died, we found the old contracts for when it was done. It was like $75 when the basement was dug out, $50 when the first deck went on, then the sidewalls went up, and all like that. It ended up $635 for the house. And my mother and father rented for 32 years. And I got out of the service in 61, 1st of August 61. Art Niffen, who was Susie Marshall, that works in the bank's father, we used to go to Sacadega Reservoir before I went into service. And he gave a call just before Labor Day. He says, let's go up to the camp this weekend. Okay. So went up to camp, and Saturday night we were going to Fonda Fair. So the girl standing there, you want to go to Fonda Fair with me? Yeah, I'll go to Fonda Fair with you. Okay. Go to the Fonda Fair. Well, we got engaged the 23rd of December, married the following July, and that'd be 55 years this July.
Oh, my God.
And she was from Schenectady. Father retired from, now it'd probably be in jail, because when she started going, she was 17, I was 25. But back and forward in service, she was 15, and I threw her in the lake. So now, about 5 years ago, I had 4 bypasses done, and my wife said, that's it, you're retired. So but I'm involved with this. I got 54 years in the fire company in Burbank. Our Lions Club is somewhat disbanded right now, but I'm going to join the Dover Lions Club because I had 34 years in that. And it's a great place to be. And I graduated from Thorne Building over here at 54. Had a lot of good stories in there too. I went to the little 2-room schoolhouse in Burbank from 42 to 48. I was the first 8th grade class from Burbank to come to Millbrook. But I didn't go to school much. Only went a half a year in the 5th grade. I was run over by a truck on Canby Road and spent 2 months in the hospital, and I didn't go back to school that year. I had a fractured skull. I was unconscious for 29 days. That's about it for me, I think. Any questions or anything?
Our last planned person who's going to talk here, and other people can join in after. Dave.
I have the easy job because I wasn't born here. I came in 1984, and history has been my passion, and architecture is the love of my life. And I thought about, of all the places around, what is the most important to me? And guess what? It happens to be the archives in the Village Hall, because the archives is where this society has kept all the memories, the photographs, the images, the correspondence that represent what this community was and will be. How many of you picked up the calendar from? Most of you, thank you. That's really important. 21 years ago, George Whalen said that he was tired of getting the commercial calendars that they've been doing, and if there's something that we could do to put together. So 21 years ago, I started it. 21 years, twinkling of an eye, and suddenly realizing how important it's become. This year, the theme is about the archives, and it includes so many of the volunteers who give time in the mornings to come in and help organize and put them together. If you have an opportunity to come and join us, please do. The most recent project that we've been working on is a number of people have been asking us about Mabbittsville and wanting to know about early photographs. We've got a lot of maps over the years that give the footprint of buildings, but we have very few of the buildings that were there. The hotel that was across from me where the parking lot is, we've got that. But there was a real interest in the mill sites and grist mills that were there. and details. So that's the kind of collective thing. We'd love to get copies of your photos so that we can put them in the file to keep them. Because in a generation from now, people are going to be asking about Claudia. Who was Claudia? What was that all about? And that's why the photographs are so important. Things that we take for granted. And I'm not going to talk more because you all have stories to share. But the one thing that I encourage you to do, you've got photographs from the family, from school, from events. Do me a favor, take the time now and write on the back who they're of, and if possible, the date. Because that information, in a twinkling of an eye, could get lost. And Joe at the dump has found so many scrapbooks and photos that have gone, and they're thrown out because no one knew who they were. The County Historical Society was established in 1914, and in 1914, people started giving things to the society. That's at Clinton House, and some of you have been there. And a number of years ago, we put together an exhibit of things that had been donated to the society. And our favorite example was a precious little teacup, and a beautiful little teacup. And the note that went along with it was, "This teacup is very, very old. It belonged to my great-grandmother." That's it. But who wrote it, whose great-grandmother, wasn't written down, because at the time, everyone knew. So here we have this teacup that is basically orphaned. And so for your photograph, take the time, write on the back who the people are, where it was, and the date. Because that may end up becoming a future calendar for the society. Thank you.
Would anyone else like to take part and add a story?
I didn't think when I came that I had anything to say, but I remembered way back in the 1930s, when I was a little girl. I lived in Stanfordville, but I had an aunt and uncle, the Birches, who lived here in Millbrook. They had beside the big house that was absolutely wonderful for a child to run through, and there were little doors this size that if you opened them up, there was a storeroom behind it, etc. And wonderful gardens. I remember as a child spending my time there, because both the Birches, Mr. and Mrs., worked in the department store. They owned a department store in Millbrook, and they worked there. When I got old enough, they had a maid at home, but she would let me walk down myself to the store, and I'd spend the day there. I'd go up in the park. Eventually, I got old enough to go up in the park by myself, and that was an absolutely wonderful place. If you remember all those paths that go all over, well, you know, I would do them. I'd be running around all those paths and really enjoyed my childhood. My grandfather, the Benhams, my grandfather had been mayor of the village. At the time I started visiting them, he was much older, and I don't ever remember having a conversation with him. He seemed to notice I was there. He didn't talk to me. Grandmother was easy and wonderful. So I visited both of these families and did spend probably 2 weeks every summer in Millbrook, running up and down the streets. I really enjoyed it.
And I have to say that Ginny and her brother have done a fabulous job of documenting every single photograph that had been taken in the family, writing where the location was and what they are. And it's such a treasure for all of us. So Ginny, thank you for that dedication. And anyone who's worked in the society and the archives, you pull out a folder and suddenly there's a note in it from Ginny documenting everything that's there. So if I were to choose a name for the archives, and I would love to have seen it, it would have been the Ginny Benham Augerson collection, because of all that you've done.
My old age, I'm getting a little forgetful. It's coming short. It's hardly worth the walk. I missed the last meeting when we were supposed to figure out where this was. Does anybody know? Did anybody find out?
Oh, yeah.
People found out eventually.
Is it?
Those for the walking tours, yeah.
Front Street, up where Stanford Road splits off? No.
That one's a tough one. Did everybody see what he's got there?
Pass it around.
Yeah, that was one of the advertisements for the walking tour that we did in the fall.
Yeah, pass it around.
That building is still there, and it's a prominent business in town. I'll give you that as a hint.
Okay, now, next, Maryland?
Marion.
Marion. It's close. When you, I guess before you worked at, what was the name of that?
The blacksmith.
Blacksmith shop.
No?
On the other side, on County House Road, didn't Bennett School have a stable there with riding horses?
Oh, yeah.
And there was a
Down the
fire,
road a little bit.
there was a fire, and like 30 horses were killed, right?
I don't remember that, but I remember the Bennett College stable.
Okay, that must have been before you came there then. My mother and at least one of my aunts worked at Bennett School back in the 20s. Now, I've been a member of Federated Church 84 and a half years.
I'm beat me, I've only been 70 years. I've only been 70 years.
Well, that's why I said 80. Now, the reason also with Genova, my mother forbade my sisters and I to go to Grape Shade. She didn't ever want to catch us in the Grape Shade because she was a teetotaler.
Oh.
Such a teetotaler that when we took communion in the church,
Oh, yeah.
she got grape juice.
Oh.
That's pretty bad. Now, one more thing.
Still
One more thing. Sam Audio, your father's name was Sam?
Sam.
After I got out of the Air Force, I drove my old beat-up Chevrolet out to Audio's garage, shopping around for a new car, and I talked to him. And I told him, I said, I got a pretty good deal on Mid-Hudson Chevrolet in Poughkeepsie. He said, Charlie, whatever they do you, whatever they offer you, I'll give you $100 less.
Oh,
But, I don't know what happened, maybe I got in a card game or something, but I ended up not getting a car. At all. Now, as far as the town pool, the senior year, my senior year, before I went in the Air Force, 1951, Christian Endeavor here, the religious youth group at the church, took over running the refreshment stand. And,
After me,
what's that?
after I gave it up.
I guess, yeah, that's right. We did that 1 year before I went to church. We had a such and such a summer off and on, but I was in charge, didn't want to be, but they made me in charge. Stocked up for the Labor Day weekend. Well, guess what? Friday night, big electrical storm, power was out, the ice cream all melted, hot dogs all in the refrigerator, and it turned into a big disaster. And whatever money we made, Christian Endeavor, it was a money-making deal, I think. Didn't work out that way. I had to pay the bills, and we just broke even. So now, one other thing. The summer I worked out there, off and on, it would be not so busy, right? But there would be little kids. And I don't know where the lifeguard was. This is gonna be about an unsung hero. I don't know where the lifeguard was, but there was some, I looked out towards the dock where the diving boards are, and there's this splashing. I see this little kid, I think, going down for the second time. So I jumped over the counter and took a running dive into the pool. And the water was about this deep. So I come up with bloody elbows and my forehead and my nose and chin was all scratched up. But I got out and got the kid. And I brought him back to shore. I don't know what his name was. And he was crying. I said, you better go back where your mother and father are or something. And that was the end of it. I never told anybody until this instant. Yeah, I had no idea who that kid was, but I couldn't stand here and see that guy going down for the third time. Now, let's see, what else? I think my favorite thing in the village here, after we moved up from South Millbrook, not too far away from Skip Dixon's place, I had a bicycle, and myself and the principal's son, Bobby Ferguson, and Gary Horn, another friend of mine, used to play bicycle tag in the village. And I'm sure we were hazardous here. So we'd take shortcuts down through this access road between Merritt Avenue and Franklin Avenue, that street there. We'd go flying down here. I'm sure. I only hit one truck. Some old guy in his Model A pickup truck came up Franklin Avenue and made a left turn by the library, just as I was coming flying down Main Street. And I slammed on the brakes, and he went that way, and I went that way. Right, I hit his door. And when I came to, no broken bones, there was probably a dozen people around. And I got up and looked at my bicycle, and the front wheels all like, and everybody said, "You all right, you all right?" "Yeah, I'm all right." I dragged my bicycle home, and by then, I had banged up my bicycle so much that my father said, "You break it, you fix it." So I had to go down to Terrell's bicycle shop on Main Street near Tomino's barber shop, buy spokes and some other odds and ends. And I struggled, but it took me a while, but I restrung the front wheel and I got it all straightened out. And it wasn't too long after that, I went in the Air Force. In 1951. That's when my parents moved to Poughkeepsie in 1953. That's why I've been absent from 1951 up to when my three boys were out of school and away, and then I started getting back involved with the Historical Society. I don't know, I wasn't no scholar in school, but I've since become very interested in history. Believe it or not, now I'm reading a book, The History of Finland. So that's my story.
Oh, good. I think we might have time for one more, if anybody else wants to.
I think people want to know where that picture is from.
Which picture are we looking at?
Oh, the one from the walking tour.
Oh, okay.
Postcard.
Oh, does anyone have an answer
You know,
for Charlie's postcard there?
No, I don't.
Oh, yeah. Well, we know.
Allison?
We know.
Yeah, it's the one I'm thinking of, it's the
It's the
bookstore.
bookstore.
Yeah.
Oh.
So the old hate
It's the
Down
bookstore.
on Front.
on Front Street.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's the lost part of,
That's Bear Brook,
there, yeah.
Parking lot.
Oh, okay, all right.
It has the front.
Train track.
That's what it's called.
Yeah.
Yes.
I will say, if you enjoyed this program, or did you want to speak up and come on up?
Well, I'm Jonathan Boyce. I'm not very good at talking in front of people, but I think my story is worth telling. It involves a house here in Millbrook that I think has great historical value. It's kind of overlooked. And it's the house up on Maple Avenue, 99 Maple Avenue. It was built by Paul J. Haight around 1910. And the stonework and the mason work is still perfect because it was built by the Italians. And it's absolutely beautiful, two-story house. I think in 1949, Al and Ruth Stacy, who some of you will know, remember, bought it. And Al Stacy died, I believe, in December of '65. And I went to work for Ruth Stacy in the spring of '66.
I worked for Stacy.
And I was still there when she died in 1990. And 1992, Sam Bowman bought it, and he's gone now. And I'm still working for his estate. So I've been there part-time for 50 years, and it's an absolutely wonderful place.
Oh, yeah.
It is, it's
For sale, right?
It's for sale, yeah.
Yeah.
It's the nicest house on Maple Avenue, and there's a lot of nice houses. And it may have been the first house up there, it may have been just
Which one, Halcyon?
Was it 99?
99, it's next door to Halcyon, right across from Tigers.
Right across from Tigers, all right.
Yeah. So I think it was a story worth telling. I still can't believe I've been there 50 years. Part-time, of course, never full-time. Always worked other jobs too.
So you help maintain all of it
Yeah.
and keep it in pristine.
Well, it's hard to grow grass up there because there's so many trees. So the lawn never looks that great, but I do keep it pretty well mowed. But you really can't grow grass under those trees. So that's my favorite place around Millbrook. I think I'm pretty lucky to have worked at my favorite place.
Thank you.
I just want to say, I was going to talk because I think one of the nicest things, they have me down here for fireside chat with the Cable family. And if I got up now and told you everything I was going to talk about, every one of you I could add to. I'm not going to. Because if I talk today, you ain't going to be interested in what I have to say in November. But the only thing I want to add to Marion's, you forgot all about the red pheasant, which was really the restaurant of all the restaurants around.
I remember
They had parties, always parties.
But the two sisters were the cooks, Mrs. Finger.
Yeah, two sisters ran
that. That was a red president first, right?
And I only add another thing to it. Back in I was 10 years old, 11 years old. I took over the paper of the Poughkeepsie, New Yorker, and I delivered the newspapers all the way through to the county home, up Oak Summit Road. I doubled my circulation. I started with 23 papers, and I ended up with 54 or 55 papers in a year and a half. I didn't end there. I come and bought a quarter news store. And now, the crazy thing, what really upsets me, I go to get the New York Post. New York Post was selling for 15 cents. Used to come in the afternoon on the bus. I'd pick it up and sell it. But now, that paper is $1.50. It just irks me. So I asked, what do you pay for those things? The New York Times, Sunday Times now is $6. I says, how much did that cost you? The other day, because we were working out 20% at the time. So in other words, the paper was sold for 10 cents, it cost me 8 cents, but I mean 2 cents. He's making 2 cents on the paper now, sell for $1.50. It just doesn't make any sense. But anyway, thank you very much.
Very good.
I'm not from Millbrook, but I'm surprised nobody mentioned the movie house. And you must all know that movie house.
Pickles Paradise.
Why, wasn't that an important part of the village?
Sure.
Yes.
Yes, rat
For us kids growing up.
That's what I'm saying.
It was.
When you talk about the great change, this was much better than.
15 cents
Let's
for
have a
students,
fight.
25
Let's have a
for
fight.
for.
It was rat
The movie
infested.
theater was better than the great change. Let me tell you, that was a
And the
rat.
street used to be lined with Millbrook girls going up for the show.
An interesting point about the
movie theater. It was very difficult to find, I can't find out what it was originally built for, okay? But it was taken over and operated by a fellow who had to block the windows, okay? Because there's so many windows. I think it was gonna be, it was a livery stable design originally, but anyway. It was a painter from New York City. And one of these paintings is in the Village Hall right now in the office. And it's about the Elm Street School. It depicts that situation. A beautiful painting. I have the artist's name at home, but every wall was covered by these paintings. And the Velletri girl, Judy Velletri, acquired them when her father redid the place. She acquired these paintings, and they were sold in California, sadly. Beautiful scenes of Millbrook, hand painted. And we still have one in the Village Hall. If you ever go in the Village Hall, please take a look on the west wall behind, just before you get to the mayor's office. You'll see a painting of the Elm Street School. Are you familiar with it?
I've seen it, yeah.
Yeah, it's a gorgeous, but I don't want to get into the value of those paintings, but it was astronomical. And I have the artist's name at home, but I don't have it with me, I don't remember.
You know, the interesting picture that's in the Village Hall shows a picture of a guy selling soda.
Yes.
That was me!
Oh, you're talking about a different painting, John. Yours is in the Louvre.
And I was selling soda at the baseball game.
The baseball.
I want to put in a plug for the scenic roads. A lot of the unpaved roads, the back roads,
Shady Dell.
Yeah, Shady
Yes.
Bell.
Butts Hollow, you can wander for miles. Shady Dell is an interesting dirt road, and try to keep them that way. I know that the Conservation Council designated scenic roads, and I want to have a map that shows which roads have been designated scenic roads. Or did they just make a law that says, this is what you do to make a scenic road? I'm very unclear about the details.
There was an ad hoc committee formed, and I think Allison Meyer was way back when involved with that. Were you, Allison?
No, you talked me into doing Hammond Hill, though.
Yeah,
So I know it's a
right.
process.
We had an ad hoc committee formed, and we put out an ordinance, if you want to call it that way, saying that we should make every effort to keep the roads scenic, okay? Now, it's hard to define what scenic is. However, there is no designated road saying, well, this is a scenic road and that isn't, okay? Yeah,
But
really.
I just want to warn you.
Wonderful point that you just made. Yeah.
I spend a lot of time in Cape Cod, and what has happened there are many little dirt roads that are semi-private, and they go to land court and make them private, so you can't even walk there anymore. I'm warning you, don't let that happen to some of these back roads.
No, that's a very good point. Very good. We've
Just
made an effort.
to wrap up here, I just say that as someone who's only been in Millbrook for under 15 years, I've really just personally enjoyed hearing everyone's story and hearing about the development of the village over the last few decades. Next month's program, we're going way back in history. Right? So we're going back to the 18th century for Eastern Dutchess County. It's a little bit different for next month. And the last thing I'm going to say is, you know how some clubs, they have like a 2-drink minimum? We got a lot of cookies over here, so we have a 5-cookie minimum before anyone leaves today. Thanks for coming.